Imagine if you could easily find solutions to make your region or city smarter, greener, better connected, more social, and closer to citizens. The Interreg Europe Policy Learning Platform can help you access knowledge about the latest policy trends, discover expert-validated good practices from all over Europe, find solutions in our peer review, get tailored support from our expert team. We can connect you with the right people and organizations. Together, we will find ways to solve your region's or city's challenges. Start your policy learning journey today.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to our webinar on synergies between traditional operator and cultural and creative industry. We are just starting this meeting and currently letting the participants in. There's still people joining us. So yeah, welcome everybody. Good afternoon. We are very happy to have a good audience today. We have almost 140 registered participants for this webinar. And before we start, I would like to introduce the team of the Policy Learning Platform who will be guiding you through this event. So my name is Schmerber. I'm a policy expert for social Europe from the Policy Learning Platform, together today with my colleague Erik. Erik, maybe you can just show up shortly. He's also an expert here. It works. And Valentin from the technical and communication team is with us and will support us in the backup, and you will hear and read from her in the chat. So the meeting, from some technical information, so the meeting is planned for a duration of 1.5 hours. It will be recorded, and the materials will be available on the website of the Policy Learning Platform shortly after the meeting, together with the presentation, the recording and the presentation. During the meeting, you will be able to interact with us through the chat, so you can use it. I would suggest that you can start also already using it and saying from where you come, which organization, or which country, and you will be able to raise your questions to the speakers through the chat, and Erik and myself will read the question out to the speakers and to try to select them, and if we cannot answer all the questions during the webinar, then we will come back to you by email afterwards. So I see now, I guess all the participants are in. A short view on the agenda for today. Following my introduction, we will have a speech from Elena Mengotti on a comprehensive approach to the cultural and creative economy across policy silos. After that, we will hear from Leandro Camara on the social value of cultural heritage, and our third speaker, Ilva, will tell us about exploring the fusion of cultural heritage and urban planning. So we will take some questions after each presentation. We will have time for questions. And at the end of the meeting, we hope to have some time to discuss with our three speakers and to take additional questions. If there are some, we will have some discussions before closing, hopefully at 3:30 without going over time. We know we all have further meeting coming after that. Before we enter the topic of the discussion, we would like to take a few minutes to present about the services of the Policy Learning Platform from Interreg Europe, because we have noticed that quite often we have participants in our meetings which are not aware of the Policy Learning Platform, not using it yet, and not also always involved closely with Interreg Europe. So we would like to present shortly our services and remind you first of the scope of the program, which covers six topics. Like you can see: smart, green, connected, social, citizens, and governance. All of you involved in European policy making recognize those terms, those policy objectives. We cover them all in Interreg Europe with the cross-cutting priority on capacity building. This is the primary objective of Interreg Europe, to help you making better policies and building up your capacities for that. And most of our activities are concentrated on topics smart, green, and social. So the policy learning platform is working alongside the project. I would expect most of you are familiar with Interreg projects in general, and probably Interreg Europe. Also, the policy learning platform helps to exploit the activities of the project, to disseminate them among the Interreg Europe community, and to help the members of the community to learn from each other. How we do that? We have different ways. We group them into those three categories. So the knowledge category, you can go to our website and you will find different policy solutions. I will give some examples, like good practices, like policy briefs that we draft on a regular basis on different topics, of course, all the topics covered by the program. We have different kind of events where we help our community to meet. Like today, we have an online meeting, a webinar, but we also have annual events or workshops with a thematic focus, where our project partners and other members of the community can meet. And we offer also expertise, so policy advice, and this is also, it's important to mention, available for members of our community not involved in projects. So everybody, all policymakers across Europe, across the countries eligible in the program can benefit from our expertise. Maybe zoom into our expertise, because it's currently one of the services which is working very well and very much demanded from the community. So we have those peer learnings events, especially useful, which are peer reviews, for instance. We are currently going towards our number 70 peer reviews. So peer reviews are meetings where a host region has a question about specific policy topics, and we come to these regions with 4 to 6 peers usually, which are also working on these topics, and we try to help the host region to find a solution. So this is quite intense. So close to 2 full days of meetings and developing policy recommendations. So if you're interested, I would encourage you to follow the link and or to go directly to our website. And similar to the peer reviews, but in a smaller version, an online version of not 2 days, but 2 hours, we organize also matchmaking session, but on a similar basis. So bringing together different people working on similar topics. Some example of peer learning, which are related to the topic of today, in some ways to the cultural and creative activities. You can see last year, so relatively recent peer reviews, we had work on governance and digitalization of fortress heritage in the city of Magdeburg in Germany. In Marseille in France, we had a peer review on better governance for cultural and creative industries, and also the one in June 23 on creating spaces for innovation. I was mentioning other learning online possibilities, so here are some examples, the good practices, which are published mostly by our projects, by the project partners. And closely related to the topic of today, we have 2 upcoming policy briefs, which will be published in the coming days and weeks on cultural and creative industries from competitiveness, let's say, point of view. And the other one on the social dimension of culture, which was drafted by my colleague Erik, who is also with us today. So plenty to read and to learn from our projects. You will find them then shortly on the website. Some examples of webinars, just as I mentioned at the beginning, the webinars are accessible in replay with all the presentation. And over the past months, we have some activities also related to the cultural and creative industries, which I took here as an example, of course, but plenty of other examples. So I invite you also here to visit regularly our website and to learn, to see which events we have, like, for instance, the one today. You can join our online community, of course. You did that if you registered to the webinar. Likely, we have a newsletter. You can sign up to the newsletter to get every news, and you, of course, here find on the policy learning site all the information I was just mentioning in my presentation. So don't hesitate to use it or to come back to us if you have questions. So we will get back to you after the webinar. During the webinar, we mostly take questions then to the speakers and to the topic of the webinar. Speaking about today's webinar, I wanted just to show briefly why we are tackling the topic. Those webinars is part of a series of activities which are dedicated in a more general way to cultural and creative activities in industries. They include a webinar focusing on social cohesion, which we had in October, and the policy briefs, which I mentioned. And it's kind of a transition between the programming period, the funding period 2014-2020, where the topic has been quite popular. You see here on the slide that there were a number of projects. The 9 projects are listed here dealing with cultural and creative industries. At least I have not mentioned here the ones dealing with cultural heritage. But it's also a very popular topic in the new funding period, 2020-2027. And you see here there are 13 projects listed after 2 calls for projects, and there will be very likely more coming. And we have here the projects in green in the smart priority, and the projects in red in the social category, social objective, which is more in our focus today. The funding period is new, and the projects are just starting. I mean, the Call 1 project started in March last year, and the Call 2 project will start this year in March. So we will come back to the topic very likely in the future when those projects will have produced new good practices and new policy recommendation, which is not the case yet because they just took up their work recently. So we will come back into the topic of cultural and creative activities in relation to social, but also to economic, to SME competitiveness, very likely in the coming years. And I've mentioned also the new policy context on my slide, and you've seen that on the topics dealt with and covered by Interreg Europe. So we have 2 policy objectives, which are new ones and related to some extent to cultural and creative activities. I will not go into details because this you can find in the official documents about the program. But just to mention that in the previous period, we had this focus on competitiveness of SMEs and cultural heritage and related to cultural and creative activities. And in this funding period, we have even broader approach, and so projects with different views, and so we will follow up on that. And this is where we are moving today in our webinar. We try to have a look about practices, policies, which are combining social aspects, economical aspects, aiming at innovation, competitiveness and growth, and also cultural aspects and addressing, covering artistic creation, cultural heritage, but also reaching out to citizens, for instance, through urban planning. We will have an example. This is, for instance, the example of Ilva in Latvia as a third speaker. So this is the context of today, and this is the new context for cultural and creative activities in Interreg Europe. So, but I already did speak quite a lot for this introduction. I would like to move now to the presentations, and the first one will be from Elena Mengotti from Italy, and Elena will introduce herself more in detail, I guess, but she would like to mention she's the lead partner of the Cherry project, which is one of the new projects in Interreg Europe dealing with cultural and creative industries, and Elena is also an active member of our Interreg Europe community. For instance, she was acting as a peer in our peer review in Marseille last year in June on the governance on cultural and creative industries, and this is also the context in which she's talking today. So I stop here, Elena, and I would like to invite you to take the floor and to share with us your experiences. And thank you for being here today.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Luke. First of all, I would like to thank Interreg Europe Learning Platform for the invitation and for the chance in today's event also to learn from interesting other countries some new forms of policies in favor of culture and creativity. But let me start sharing my screen. Sorry, but can you see my screen?
Yes, yes, okay. It works well. We see it full screen. It's perfect.
Okay. Thank you so much. So, I'm Elena Mengotti. I'm the head of the Unit for Legal, Financial and EU Affairs of the Department for Culture and Sports of Friuli, Venezia, Giulia Autonomous Region. We are a small region in the northeastern part of Italy with 1.2 million of inhabitants, and we are a region with a special regional constitution. And this means that we have more legislative powers, and so this is why we are different, we are special. And some legislative powers are also in the field of culture and cultural heritage. Our experience started from a very rich cultural and creative environment in our region, but thanks to an Interreg Europe project that was a CREAB project, we had the chance to develop a specific action plan, a specific political strategy for culture and creativity that was for the first time introduced in our region in 2018, with the aim of supporting culture and creative industries in our territory, and to support culture and creativity in general, also with the help of other regional departments. This was a brand new instrument for us, and thanks to CREAB project, we developed this strategy, focusing on three main simple but challenging actions that are the coordination activities, creating synergies between different departments, the creation of a cluster for culture and creative industries, a cluster that needs to provide services to support culture and creative industries. And the third action is the creation of financial instruments or political instruments to support the access of CCIs to fundings, to provide fundings. Thanks to this action plan, we also worked with other departments in charge of education, in charge of economy, to create an environment that could support better our culture and creative industries. So we started also the creation of an education hub in order to provide trainings of higher education for in the culture and creative sector. So we created an education path to support professionals in some areas, such as the conservation and enhancement of historical and artistic heritage, in the sector of performing arts, visual arts, and performances, and also in the section of creating new services in the field of culture and creativity. Together with the Higher Education Hub, we created also the cluster for culture and creativity that, as I told you before, was in our action plan. So we launched a public call in 2019, and we provided to a temporary association of enterprises composed by our regional business incubators. We provide them with a specific budget, which was 600,000 euros, to support culture and creative industries with specific services that were created, that were for them, and also asked by our culture and creative industries in some workshops that we organized with them. So these are three services that are provided by our cluster. First of all, a catalog of culture and creative companies in our region. So some promotional activities for this sector, and also a desk for funding opportunities, both regional and national and international. Thanks to this environment, we decided to support culture and creative industries with some specific fundings. So we used our regional operational program for the period 2014-2020 with 3 calls to support culture and creative industries. So we started with supporting the pre-incubation and incubation of startups. And then we supported the startups in the following phase with an acceleration and consolidation program. And the third call was again for pre-incubation and incubation of startups in the field of culture and creativity. After these results, now in this European programming period, we have just published a call in support of CCIs to co-finance investments for the development of new products, new processes, or new services for culture and creative industries. So not startups anymore, but our startups that now are working and are culture and creative industries. So we just started this call, and we are co-financing the grants with the 80% of the total amount of each single project. As I told you before, we started with a European project, REHAB, and then we went on with our strategy implementation with regional fundings and also with other European projects, with the aim to support culture and creative industries from different points of view. One point of view was to support culture and creative industries in their main significance or such as their economic impact. So we tested the organization in the frame of SACE European project from Central Europe program, the first edition of the Fair for Culture and Creativity. We organized a traditional fair in a traditional fair environment in Pordenone, during the pandemic situation, with 12 stands of companies and a 2-day convention with a pitching session dedicated to CCI's ideas. And we involved 75 companies and then we organized a specific session for B2Bs meetings, and we hosted more than 200 B2B meetings. The result of this first edition was followed by different workshops and meetings with our regional companies that asked us to organize the fair every 2 years. So this year we had an intermediate event. Our fair is called Eureka, and this year we organized an Eureka Day, which is a meeting with our regional companies in order to discuss a specific topic chosen by our regional companies during meetings with them. So this year we analyzed Culture 4.0. And in 2024, this year, we are hosting the second edition of Eureka 2024 in October in Pordenone. And this time we are having a huge fair for culture and creativity. Everyone is invited, all of you are invited. We are publishing in February the regulation of the fair, and we are publishing the call to come as a company and to participate in the exhibition. So all of you are invited because we would like to organize a national and possibly international fair for culture and creativity. So our regional government decided to finance with regional fundings the fair. And with a specific budget, we are supporting our regional companies, but also giving the chance to companies coming from all over Europe, hopefully, to participate to the exhibition and also to the B2Bs that we are organizing. So follow us on our regional website on this matter. And then we supported culture and creativity, starting also from another point of view, the idea that also museums or cultural heritage can be drivers for the economy, for the local economy. So thanks to Crossinno project, that was a project financed by Austria-Italy program, we developed a connection between local museums and local companies. We started with 2 local museums, the Museum of Traditions based in Tolmezzo, which is on the mountains near Udine. And we put together the museum, which tells the history of our region, and local companies, local artisans, in order to create new synergies with the museum and to improve the visit into the museum, where are displayed many historic objects, also from the tradition. Another museum we work with is the Museum of Cutlery in Maniago. You can see in display in Maniago many important pieces of art. For instance, the dagger knife used by Rambo in the movies, or the sword from the movie Braveheart, but also swords from the movies of Robin Hood or Indiana Jones. So the museum has a connection with the local cutlery industry. Maniago is very famous for the cutlery industry. And so we put together the museum and companies and tried to develop a new narrative for the history of the museum and a new relation and new opportunities for the industries that can bring their clients to the museum in order to discover the art of cutlery and better appreciate their products. This project went on with an innovative way of exploiting the traditions in Tolmezzo. And the region developed with the museum, with Carnia Industrial Park, with educational and training institutions and the municipality of Tolmezzo, a project with the regional fundings in order to create new startups in the field of artisanship. These sorts of shoes are called scarpetti in Friulano language, and they are a very famous kind of shoes that are quite now popular and famous all around the world, also under the name of Friulane. This product is typical from Tolmezzo and the area, so we developed a training course together with some local artisans in order to create new startups in the field of production of this kind of shoes. So we start the first edition of the course, which is based on 80-hour training. And we are training 20 students. And then we are supporting them in order to open their startup. What's important is that we had 200 students applying for the course. So, of course, we are trying to organize more and more trainings on this topic. But this is an interesting update on the first idea of working with the Museum of Tolmezzo and artisans. We worked also to support culture and creative industries and the urban transformation. In our region, we have many ancient historical buildings that are abandoned or not used. And so in 2019, in order to solve this issue, we introduced a new policy, a policy to support public and private partnership in order to create the so-called culture and creative hubs. We started with the financing for 3 years of 10.5 million euros, and we supported ideas between private associations or entities and the region in order to change some urban buildings into cultural spaces. These are the 3 projects we financed in the first edition of our public call. The first one is the Arcademy. In the city center of Trieste, there was this old ancient bank that was not used. Many floors of the bank were abandoned. So together with the Bank Foundation and the Eve Cultural Association, we funded the Arcademy project, which is a project based on reshaping the old bank and transforming it into a fashion museum, and also in spaces used for training courses in the field of fashion, and also in business and events area, where businesses can meet possible partners, and also where to train future artisans in the field of fashion. What's important is that this association that is funded the Academy is called EVE, and started in 2002, the ITS Award. ITS says for International Talent Support, which is an international, very prestigious award given to young talents in the field of fashion. So beginning from 2002, they had an archive of more than 2,000 products, such as jewels or, of course, fashion products, and with an international jury. As you can see, for instance, there was the singer Mika, but also the director of Vogue, or many luxury brands owners, such as Renzo Rosso from Diesel. So this jury is giving this annual prize to young talents in the field of fashion. So they have this huge quantity of pieces of art that are now in display in Academy Museum. Another hub we created was in Pordenone, where in the city center, the municipality of Pordenone was the owner of this Villa Galvani that was refurbished at the beginning of the year 2000, but was not used. So the Culture and Creative Hub of PAF is a project that is putting together an association, a private association, that created in this building the National Museum, and now International Museum of Comic Art. In this building now we have a temporary exhibitions, a permanent exhibitions, and then we have also teaching lessons for comics, and we host also local companies inside the building. So as you can see, a very new idea of reshaping a public building in the city center. The last hub we created is based near Pordenone and was an old hydroelectric power station. The power station was active until 1988, and then it stopped its activity. So thanks, of course, the building was abandoned, and thanks to our public call, we created a hub that transformed the building into a permanent museum of the old power station, but also the building also hosts spaces for culture and creative industries. So we have a co-working space inside. Another example on how we decided to support culture and creativity is a public call that we funded thanks to Italy-Slovenia Interreg program in the last programming period, and the project called DIVA. We developed with the European fundings a public call to support the cooperation between traditional SMEs and CCIs in order to create new products or new services of the traditional companies coming from the cooperation with CCIs. So we had 123 project proposals. 58 of the projects were from our region and from partners coming from our region, but what's important is that the call was managed with the European fundings, but for 3 territories: Veneto region territory, Friuli Venezia Giulia territory, and Slovenia. So we had projects coming from partners deriving from these 3 areas. So we had an example also European partnerships. Many projects, ideas were very well structured and really interesting. So they created real products or services. And this is why the original budget was 900,000 euros. Coming from EU fundings, but since 58 projects were from partners coming from our region, we decided with 1 million euros of regional fundings to finance up to 27 projects out of 58 presented. So we financed more projects from this call thanks to regional fundings, since the ideas were really interesting. One example is the cooperation from a traditional company that is working in the field of furniture. Thanks to the cooperation with CCI, they created a new modular display system for museums. That's a new product they created. So after this description of what we've done so far, thanks to many regional fundings and European fundings, what we would like to do now is something that is thanks to a new project financed by Interreg Europe, and is the Cherry project. Cherry is a project that we've just started that tries to improve local policies and plans for CCIs in order to make them more resilient to changes and support local growth of CCIs and their role for local growth and economic growth. And what we would like to do is to test new instruments to support cultural and creative industries. We have a budget of more or less 2 million euros. 300,000 are for our region. We will be working for 4 years, and 8 different countries are involved. And we are trying to develop, thanks to different SWOT analysis in our territories in the field of culture and creativity, with some exchanges between partners, with the good practices that we are trying to discover and to provide to all the partnership and also to the program. We are trying to support CCIs and their role in the urban transformation, in local development, and in the valorization of natural and cultural heritage. This is the aim of Cherry project, and what we would like to do, for instance, in our region is another way to support culture and creativity. As I told you before, we have special legislative powers. We have a specific law to promote cultural heritage. We would like to test, thanks to Cherry, a new policy supporting the role of private gardens and parks in our region to promote culture and creativity and the link with CCIs. So this is a new idea that we are trying to test. And thanks again to Interreg Europe, we hope that it would be a success and can be introduced. So we would like to change our regional law in the frame of cultural heritage. So these are the partners involved. I know that some of them are together with us today. So this is all from my part. And of course, I'm here for any doubt or any question.
Thank you, Elena, very much for this broad overview. We had invited you exactly for that, to have this kind of broad view on different approaches to support of CCIs and connecting them with different activities. we could just take one or two quick questions if there are some before moving to our next speakers, and coming back to questions at the end of the meeting, just to make sure that we have enough time for all the speakers. So Erik, do you see if there are already burning questions from the chat?
Yeah, no questions in the chat so far, so you're encouraged to submit them as our speakers are presenting.
Yes, we can do that. That's a good point. So we managed to have enough time. I would just, Elena, maybe one question. Just I'm afraid it's not a quick and answer an easy question, but where do you see the main difficulties or in bringing all those different sectors together in your policy making on regional level? Was it easy? Did you experience conflicts, barriers, or?
Well, thank you for the question. What I would like to underline is that as a region, in our region in particular, we are used to work sector by sector. Each department is working on its sector. So we have many legislative powers, so we need to deal with many sectors. The challenge was trying to work together on a specific issue that is something that is under the competence, let's say, of different departments. So the greater difficulty was this one: work together with other departments. And it was harder than working with companies. So it was harder not because my colleagues didn't want to, but because we are not used to, and we don't have instruments to work together. We don't have, let's say, ways or let's say any regulation providing, internal regulation providing us the chance to work together on the same topic. So the importance of Interreg Europe was to give us the chance to work in the field, in the frame of a European project where the rules were provided by the program. So there was no need to explain to our colleagues their role, because we had these working groups that were set up by the project, thanks to the program, where they were invited, and we simply worked together in these working groups. And now we have regional working groups working together on this topic, because, for instance, for the regional fair of culture and creativity, we have a specific working group for the fair that puts together the economy department, the education department, our agency for the promotion of cultural heritage, and many, many other external institutions. So now, thanks to this European project, we have the chance to have also a regional instrument, because CRIAB gave us an example on how to proceed.
Okay, thank you, Elena. So we, as we just mentioned and discussed with Erik, we'll come back to you with questions if you are willing to stay with us until the end of the meeting, and we will then move to the second presentation from. We stay in the south of Europe and we move from Italy to Spain, to the Basque country, with Leandro. Leandro, it is your turn. You can take this. Open your microphone, share your presentation, and take the screen, please.
Good afternoon, everybody. First of all, I want to give thanks to Policy Learning Office and to you, Luke, for your invitation to participate in this webinar and to have the opportunity to talk about the practice that we are developing in the Cathedral of Vitoria-Gasteiz in association now with the program mentioned firstly by you, crea these three from the Basque country. I present myself. I am Leandro Camara. I am an architect, and I am the director of the technical office of. Sorry, I am trying to share my screen and it doesn't work.
Leandro, we can help and share the screen from our side if you prefer.
No, because I have made some modifications, but now you can see the cathedral, or you see me?
We see you, Leandro.
Oh, this is terrible. I share now?
Yes, no, it's good. Leandro, I
Now
forgot.
it's okay. Okay.
It's okay. So I forgot you have 10 minutes about, so but it works well now. Go on.
Okay, thank you. Well, I am the architect of the cathedral, responsible of the works, and I will read my presentation because it's easier for me, and it's the way I did it, and I will not let anything in the pocket. Well, our practice began Open for Works has as its first objective the renewal of the social and civic sense of the historical architectural heritage, and particularly that of the cathedral, when its original meaning and functionality as a religious building have lost value in the face of other more current cultural interests. The revitalization of heritage only finds meaning if it recovers its social value, and it must be carried out in conditions of public openness and transparency in all its aspects. Projects, implementation, financing, and management must be shown in real time to allow an active participation of society that overcomes, at least in part, the dirigism of experts. I will give you some context about Vitoria and its cathedral. The city of Vitoria was born around the 9th century as a small village on a hill overlooking a wide territory and a natural passage between the southwest of France and the north of Castile. In the 11th century, the city was walled and had a small Romanesque church in an increasingly compact and populated hamlet. From 1200 onwards, the construction of the great church of Santa Maria began, next to an expanding city under the control of the Kingdom of Castile. At the end of the 13th century, the most important part of the church was built, its chancel and its side naves. And during the first half of the 14th century, its naves were erected to a height of 23 meters. The church of Santa Maria grew in the 15th and 16th centuries with a large portico and a tower. Between 1996 and 2000, we made the master plan for the comprehensive restoration of the Cathedral of Santa Maria, which proposed the architectural recovery of a building with severe structural damage at that time, proposing a set of restoration and refunctionalization works that involved a large economic investment and required several years to be carried out. This is important, the years to be carried out. The plan outlines a new architecture that recreates and completes the medieval building to provide it with the services and possibilities of a current construction, fully respecting the medieval monument. It was presented to the public in 1999 as the first act of openness and transparency. Then a new public body was created, led by the Provincial Council of Álava and also made up of the Bishopric and the City Council of Vitoria. capable of gathering adequate funding and forming a technical team for the management and direction of the restoration works. Funding is channeled through the foundation and comes from the three patrons, means provincial council, city council, and bishopric, a set of founding partners, companies and individuals who provide funds as patronage, and specific subsidies for works and research from the government of Spain, the government of the Basque country, and European Horizon 2020 and Interreg programs. Some 25 million euros has been invested since 2000 in the restoration works and in the investigations necessary to support this restoration. The functional organization chart is this as follows. The governing body is the patronate of trustees made up of the three members mentioned. Under the director, a technical team of 5 people make up the staff, which has been stable for more than 15 years. An auxiliary team of about 18 people is dedicated to attending to visitors, hostel users, and cultural activities. And then the contractors to carry out restoration works, supply of equipment, and auxiliary services. And we count with the collaboration of the scientific team from the University of the Basque Country for research in archaeology, history, geology, botany, etc. Our first attempts for the Open for Works began in 1999 with the complete archaeological, with the visit to the complete archaeological excavation of the interior carried out between 1998 and 2008. That revealed the history of the city prior to the construction of the cathedral and its own constructive biography. The entire archaeological process was presented live to the visiting public. A system of walkways flying over the excavation allowed it to be visited, and also some unique cultural activities. In parallel to this presentation, the cathedral offered new cultural activities, public presentations, theatrical acts, concerts, exhibitions. The city was able to appreciate how the investment in the conservation of its most important architectural monument resulted in creativity and culture for all, how the historical cultural heritage constitutes the substrate on which today's culture grows. Since 2001, the Open for Works program has acquired a clearer conceptual definition. It is a matter of offering the visiting public of the cathedral all the open knowledge that is generated in the research and works, doing so live in situ and during the work itself, and to make available to society a place where multiple cultural manifestations can be expressed, from music to cinema or audiovisual shows, like this one. The aim is not only the conservation of our cultural heritage, but also the amplification of the value chain that arises from it. Our heritage is not a dead waste, an onerous obligation to preserve a past that cannot be revived, but on the contrary, an open possibility of reinterpretation of the formation of a living memory of society that can serve as the root for new creations and innovative forms of culture. Results and lessons learned. In 1996, the cathedral was in a state close to a structural ruin, which had caused its progressive social abandonment. Lacking use and conservation, it had become a social burden for which there was no clear future. It is now a multifunctional and accessible building, hybrid in nature, consolidated and stabilized, which requires a new long-term conservation plan to maintain its position in the city. The opening of the works to the public, to visitors to the cathedral, and to those attending cultural activities has generated a new relationship of trust between citizens and their cultural heritage. We have learned that far from making heritage the place of experts, it is very important that it is the place of society, and that we must constantly look for new ways to create relationships between the two so that this heritage is socially revitalized and integrated naturally into the life in the city. For this reason, we have also understood along this year that the investment necessary to carry out the restoration works and the necessary scientific and technical research has only been possible thanks to this new complicity between the city and its cathedral. It has allowed us to give life to new services for the city: a reception and cultural activities center, a youth hostel, places that expand the cultural and social offer. And now our future challenges. From the outset, the intention of broadening the participation of society in the processes of recovering the architectural heritage has had a focus especially dedicated to achieving better accessibility in the cathedral. The introduction of infrastructures dedicated to improving the mobility and safety of visitors and users has been a cross-cutting objective in all directions, within a global plan to create itineraries accessible to an increasingly wide public that includes people with motor capacity limitations. Specific visits are also provided for people with hearing or visual disabilities, but here the challenge is to establish more immediate means of communication, which made the mediation of specialized people unnecessary. It is one of our short-term goals. We are aware that love for heritage is created in society by inducing its capacity for identification and recognition. In this regard, children and young people are a key target audience for our activities. Showing interest and knowledge of their cultural heritage in them is the best guarantee both for the best conservation of it and, above all, for increasing the enjoyment that its use can cause. Finally, we believe that the evocative and recreational capacity of the common memory of cultural heritage is also a powerful tool for the social inclusion of people and groups who are at risk of exclusion. Migrants or those who lack the economic or cultural means to develop fully can find cultural heritage a point of reference for integration. From our foundation, we are convinced that cultural heritage, and the Cathedral of Vitoria in our case, is a basic instrument for social welfare, and we believe that its appreciation and enjoyment by citizens is a fundamental part of the European social and welfare state. And this is all. Thanks for your attention, and sorry, I am trying to let the share, and I am ready for the questions if there is any.
Thank you, Leandro. We will see if we have some immediate question. Erik, maybe a question from your side or from the participants.
Unfortunately, none from the participants at this stage, but I would have a question. It would sound horribly now, let's say, finance or money oriented after this beautiful conclusion you made, Leandro. Thank you for that. I'm just wondering how the financial balance of such a very large operation is presented to policymakers. Is there an expectation of balancing between investment and all the activities you said, the cinema, the events organized, and I imagine they generate some income? How do you manage to present this to the policymakers in terms of convincing them to put in the money of this? Is there an expectation that this would balance out over time, or is that just considered a secondary preoccupation in this context?
Well, in the beginning, it was, I think it was a secondary preoccupation because the cathedral was in serious risk of ruin. But we thought that it was necessary to share our work with people, and so from the beginning we began to open the cathedral. Now the cathedral is ready to give the service of an hybrid and open building for any activity, almost any activity, for visitors, for tourists, but also, as you have seen, for children, for childhood, for people in the city, and so now we hope the investments in activities will grow, and maybe the investments in the conservation and maintenance of the cathedral will be less, will descend. So I don't know the balance. I don't know how much we have invest in one or the other ways. But anyway, we also receive a lot of proposals from out of our office, to use the cathedral in activities, in some activities, in cultural activities, for the cultural and social, and a lot of presentation of we have integrated the cathedral into the life of the city, I think.
So the objective is already close to being achieved. Maybe we'll have more questions sometime later, but I would like to see if we can move to northern part of Europe, to Latvia, and see if Ilva is with us for presenting her experiences from Jelgava. Leandro, can you stay with us until the end?
Yes, see you later.
Okay. Thank you very much. And Ilva, I would now give the opportunity to you to share your experiences. Ilva is mentioned coming from Jelgava. She's also connected to the Cherry project mentioned by Elena earlier in a presentation as a stakeholder, a regional stakeholder. So Ilva, yeah, we cannot hear you yet, or I don't know, maybe you didn't say anything.
I haven't.
Okay.
Yeah, I was listening.
It works.
Yes, but I'm here, and I don't know if you would like to. Do you see the presentation?
Yes, maybe you could move it in full screen mode.
Yeah. We'll see.
Yes, it's good. It's good. It works. It works. It's good.
It works. Yeah. Okay.
Go on, Ilva.
Yeah, I was just wondering if you also want to see me in a video as well, in the live, so you can. Hello, everyone. My name is Ilva Grasmane. I ran Jelgava Regional Tourism Center, which is one of our local governments, Jelgava State City, or our municipality department. And in addition to our main role of promoting our city and regional's cultural and natural and historical treasures, our goal is, of course, to attract not only visitors from near and far, but also take care of two historical landmarks, and one of which I'm going to also talk about in my presentation. So I'll see if it moves. It does not really move. Yes, it does. So I will give a short history background so that you can have the overview of or understanding of the scale of why this was so important for our city. So Jelgava is, as you can see, Jelgava is a city in the central Latvia, about 40 kilometers southwest of Riga, and it's in size approximately 60 square kilometers with about 56,000 inhabitants. So it's the fourth biggest city of Latvia. So it was founded back in 1265 by Livonians. and it grew prosperous, and by the 16th century it was the seat of the Duchy of Courland, so it was a very, very important place in history of culture. And the nobility built many fine manors and churches, and the city's beauty was said to reveal that of Riga. So it was a capital of Courland for many years. But unfortunately, during the World War II, the city was the city center, all the industry and the railway network, public buildings that were heavily damaged by the fighting, and with almost 90% of the city was destroyed. And after the World War II, around 1949, 50, Jelgava was slowly rebuilt, its typical Soviet style buildings. So it absolutely lost its charm, which it used to be during the Livonians' time. But the history is history. After Latvia regained its independence in 1991, Jelgava slowly retrieved its original Germanic heritage, and it's now a popular tourist site. And just to be clear, as you can see here in the picture, so the old town as such, it's a small part in the size of how big Jelgava was at the mid 19th century, and now it has grew, as I mentioned, as a fourth biggest city in our country. And speaking of Old Town Quarter, the correct name would be to call it Old Town Street Quarter, because it is not really the Old Town Quarter, it's just named after the street where this quarter is located. It's on the very, very outskirts of the ancient town. As already Leonardo mentioned, this revitalization of buildings and cities, it has become quite popular. And also in our case, I would say it was like a revitalization of Jelgava's Old Town Street Quarter, and back in 2017, 2018, municipality decided to take actions and focused on finding solutions to restore, at that time, very, very damaged and degraded city area. And the objective was to enhance the appeal of the oldest part of the city with the wooden buildings. I'm stressing on wooden buildings that surprisingly survived the World War II and the city burning shortly after World War II. And the aim was to improve, of course, quality of life for the citizens in general, also to foster accessibility of the sites, and to carry out research of cultural heritage, thus promote tourism development and entrepreneurship. The project was implemented by the Europe Regional Development Funds. And in this quarter, I have divided it in like two parts, because there were two separate projects. In total, it was 4 buildings that were restored, and one part on the one side, it was Vatpilsēta Street or Old Town Street 14, as you can see in the front of the picture. And when starting that work, the team discovered that the building, the brick building next to it, should also be included, and then they found solutions to make this as a one project, and also kind of during one project to create like to restore 2 buildings. And the revitalization of Jelgava Old Town Street quarter began with restoring these two buildings on one side of the street. And on the next year or the following year, there was a different project, but also from the Europe Regional Development Fund, when they were implemented another activities, and also that goes at the street 2, which is on the other side of the street, at the end of the street, was also restored. The revitalization of this quarter was, I would say, the main key was the effort of the team of professionals. It was architects and builders, the tourism specialists as well, historians and craftsmen. So I would say that was a key to make this project happen and to be on the scale as it is. Now here are some visuals for comparison, just to see how it looked in 1950 and how it looks nowadays. This is the Vectils at the Street 14, and here you can compare the 3 wooden buildings that were restored during both projects, and if speaking of urban planning and city development, our municipality started to restore buildings. Also, the homeowners of the adjacent area were encouraged to enhance their property. So that was a gain for all the quarter of this city. And thus, of course, the value of real estate rose, the level of crime decreased eventually, and environment became attractive also for business. As you can see here, cafeterias like hairdressers, medical clinic, etc. So it was really revitalized part of our city. This in this quarter, you can see on one end of the street there is a place for Latvian traditions and crafts. There is a weaver shop, clay and pottery workshop, and also premises rented by local entrepreneurs for their craft shops, and they make they offer master classes and also excursions, because the building inside is also it has kept its all beauty of the and historical witnesses, all at the wall paintings and how the building was at that time, because these both of these buildings were that I'm talking about, these wooden ones, were wooden buildings for civilians to live. It was just living apartments. And the House of Latvian Traditions and Crafts is a place for hosting annual Latvian traditional events and ceremonies and gatherings for local communities, singing folk songs and dancing by the bonfire during seasonal solstice or equinox, thus keeping the ancient folk traditions alive nowadays. And it is a platform also for local home producers, for farmers and for craftsmen, for seasonal fairs. So like for Christmas fair and midsummer fair, autumn harvest fair and markets. And that is, if it's usually complemented by rich culture programs that involves local performance and art collectives as well. And then once in a year, there is also organized this Old Town Street Festival, which also brings a dynamic and creative atmosphere at this quarter. And nearby cafeteria hosts summer music, open air concerts and festivals, also to attract visitors. Then if moving back to this end of the street, in the only brick building that was restored now one can find a well-equipped restoration center for textile, for metal, for ceramics, and for glass. And at the moment, it is led by a museum, our city, City Museum. And it is a great example of cooperation between also departments in one municipality. And these restoration services are open to anyone interested, not only for purposes of museums, so which is also added value. Then I'll try to show you also a short video. It's about 1 minute long, to see what is in the building, which is the old wooden building, which used to be an apartment, as I mentioned, with a craftsman shop on the ground floor around 1880s, and is again after renovation, it is accessible to public, so visitors can come see and study the history of the house. And the city is very engaging through the exhibition that is made for finding out and learning the history is made on very digital and high-tech solutions. So, and in this building also there's an attic which is suitable for hosting various artistic exhibitions and poetry readings. On the ground floor, there is a cozy room for social events and presentations, meetings, masterclass, etc. So, and I'll try to show you a video. And if it does not really work, then I will ask for help from. Please stop here, and what I would like to add as at the end of my presentation, of course, these opportunities and collaboration options that by implementing this project, of course, was that from being abandoned and forgotten and scary area, it has started to grow into space that aims to serve as a model for eco-friendly urban living, while fostering also the sense of community. And so the fusion of these traditional cultural heritage and innovations and technologies, of course, is the key to promote entrepreneurship and creativity in our city. So that would, I think, be it from my side. So, and please come and see yourself.
That's a very good advice, Ilva. Thank you for that, for the invitation. Hopefully some of us will be able to follow up. Erik, do we have questions? Do you have questions for Ilva, short questions before we go back to all our speakers briefly?
Not from the audience right now. I was fascinated by how the built environment changes everything, basically, the economic dynamic, the social dynamic. I was wondering a bit how proactive you've been in relation to these groups of people working on traditional dances or other types of traditions. Have they been stimulated, well, were they stimulated by a changing environment only, or did you also have a proactive strategy to generate these collective initiatives around the new buildings, or the renovated buildings rather?
Well, I would say we have both. It is both cases. If speaking of Weber's workshop, it is easier because it's traditionally that Latvian tradition craftsmen, they are very, very nomad. They sit in their woods and they weave, and they don't go outside. And with Weavers, it somehow was easier because we have, Latvians have this song and dance festival traditions very strongly rooted in our history. And therefore, very often, every 4 or 5 years when we have these song and dance festivals, people just, they are just crazy about getting their own full folk dance, the costume, national costume. And therefore, it was quite easy to get, because that's a group of people. It's not just one person who does that. In terms of ceramics, it is much harder because they are really like they are not team players. They don't need other person to be involved in preparing their work. And so that is a bit problematic, yeah. But of course, yeah. It's so I would say it's both, yeah, both.
Okay, I just would like to mention, thank you, Ilva, that I've seen that 2 persons have raised their hands, Sanita and Oana, but it's more convenient maybe if you want to ask a question, if you could to just to write them in the chat. And I see there is a question from Christina Maria asking what was triggering the start of the renovation, Ilva, or how did you convince politicians and find fundings to do that?
I think that part of city was for many long years been abandoned and a bit like, yeah, with a crimish kind of touch. And I think one push was that in our national strategies, usually these actions of if you add in a development plan some certain initiatives that people can focus on, or municipalities can focus on, and they see that there is also the state support, then it's easier. And of course, there was this program for supporting cultural heritage projects and also involving the tourism in that. As I mentioned, there were 2 different projects. So one, and also in that is a bit complicated, or maybe not complicated, it's just challenging and maybe even interesting, because these 2 different projects also have 2 different aims and goals to achieve, or achieve the indicators that we need to achieve. For instance, this craft house, craft and art house has it's more on local visitors focused. So there we have to aim local tourists, but in contrary, the Old Town House has another program, which again is working specifically on the brighter visitors. So there we need to achieve these foreign visitors again. So it's a mix.
Okay, thank you for that. We are coming close to the end, but maybe we can just take 3-4 minutes to have a few additional questions. I would not like to go too much over time to enable our speakers to go back to their normal work. So last chance for questions. Elena and Leandro, yes, thank you for showing up again. I had one question I want to raise for Elena. Also in our presentation, Elena, you mentioned a lot of European projects that you use to develop activities. How do you manage to make the transition to what, let's say, durable, permanent activities? Because the projects have typically a limited lifetime, and then funding ends, and but it seems you managed to get some continuity in the policies. I wanted to hear about a bit about that.
Well, look, you're right. The project, they're limited duration, and sometimes it's hard to learn from them and to provide the instruments arose from the project and to put them into our politics. I think that the most important way to carry out all the activities also after the project duration is having a strategy. The thing that we did starting from 2018 is having a strategy. And this is how we tried to develop this strategy through different instruments. And one instrument is the European programming period. And so all the European programs. Of course, we are trying to use all the European programs according to the aim of our idea. And I think that what we are trying to do is testing in European projects the policies we would like to carry out. And after the testing, we are trying to learn and to change our policies in order to go on with the policy thanks to our regional fundings or other European fundings, such as regional programs, ERDF, supported by ERDF, or international fundings, or our national or regional opportunities of fundings. So I think this is the way we are trying to carry out, and I think that so far in most of our policies it worked. Like in Cherry Project, we are trying to change our legislation and to test new ways to support something that we have never supported. But thanks to other meetings and analysis, we discovered that is important in our region. And I speak about private parks and gardens. So a way to change our point of view on them is testing this policy thanks to Cherry Project.
Thank you very much, Elena. We need to conclude. I see some people are going out because we're just over time. I will just ask very briefly in less than a minute, maybe. Yeah, I have a last question for you, Elena, and then we need to conclude. We just popped up. It's how would you engage citizens and youth into how to drive youth interest into project or citizen interest into EU project? How do you manage that?
Well, of course, thanks to European projects, we developed a new instrument in our day-to-day work, which is the stakeholder consultation. Public consultations or restricted consultations to specific stakeholder working groups. I would like to underline that this was something brand new for us in 2018 when we started. So again, thanks to European projects, we developed this practice, and now we are trying to engage different targets of stakeholders depending on our topic or our, of course, aim of engagement. So we are building specific consultations, and we are trying to develop also innovative ways to consult with them, thanks also to experts, external experts that are supporting us, of course, because we cannot do everything as public servants. We need specific skills. So we have external experts or external companies supporting us with many kinds of, with different instruments depending on the target. For youth, of course, we are developing instruments, online instruments through social networks, for instance, or specific surveys dedicated to youth.
Thank you, Elena. So very last few
You're
words. I would ask each of you speakers very spontaneously in a few seconds, starting maybe with Leandro. What would be your, if you had a dream in 5 years, or what new achievements, what new nice things would you have around your practices or your region or your context? What would you like to have if you could just have a wish? Leandro, I didn't give you time to prepare, but maybe you have something in your mind. You need to put on the microphone on, Leandro.
Well, I don't know. A dream, we have a lot of dreams always. Well, I think that now the cathedral has a consolidated position in the city, in Vitoria. And it only needs to go ahead with these new activities. I think that we need that more users and the same number of visitors. I mean, I think that cultural heritage is mainly the heritage of one society, of one community. We all love travels, and we all love tourism, and we all go to visit other countries, other places. And we are, of course, happy to have visitors, tourists, and so on. But I would be happiest if the citizens of Vitoria will make the cathedral a center for of their lives. Not the center of their lives, of course, but an important place for their lives. Not to visit how beautiful is our cathedral, no. To use it as a resource to make any kind of creative activities. Okay.
Nice message. Ilva, I'm turning to you. Do you have some dreams, plans that you would like to turn reality soon?
Yeah, I strongly agree to what Leandro just said, and I think, yeah, I would be very happy if at some point we reach a stage when community is the one who decides and really interacts and asks and guides us through what is really necessary, instead that at some very often is the other way around, that municipality decides according to the available funds, so that they need to do some renovations or interactions in the urban planning, but citizens do not really actually need that. And so, but this is not our case. But yes, the visitors, that the society, the community that is so willing and so happy of having these things, that would be my dream.
Thank you, Ilva. Turning to Elena. Elena, the gardens of Babylonia used to be one of the wonders of the world. Maybe your new gardens will be a wonder, or do you have other dreams?
I have a dream, of course, and my dream is in 5 years that when you speak the name of Friuli Venezia Giulia region, everyone thinks about culture and creativity. So this is my dream at a national and also European level.
thank you, Elena, for this closing words. So we have gone a bit over time, but so it's time to close. I would again say thank you to all three of you for taking the time and the preparation and joining this meeting. Thank you also to the participants. We had a good audience, over 100 participants at the beginning of the meeting, which is quite nice. We haven't had so many those numbers in my webinar since the end of COVID. When it's closing down, when the webinar will be closed down, there will be a survey popping up. It would be nice if you could just take 1 or 2 minutes to give your feedback. But also you will receive then automatic emails after the email to mention about that. And you will be informed about the publication of the summary of the webinar and the recording. So thank you all for staying with us, being with us, staying with us, and looking forward to seeing you, meeting you, collaborating in different kind of creative activities in the next years. And have a nice day. Goodbye.
Yeah. Thank you.